This next essay assignment consists of two parts. Part one is called the Exemplification Paragraph. Part two, I can show you quickly here, is the Persuasive Essay. Ideally, you will be able to include the Exemplification Paragraph in the Persuasive Essay. Let me explain how these work. So, the idea here with the Exemplification Paragraph, this is actually part one of the Persuasive Essay unit. In this paragraph, you will make a claim and then use examples to illustrate your point. This paragraph must use a source that you intend to use in your persuasive paper. It's possible that you might use two sources in this assignment. If you quote twice in the paragraph, you could quote twice from one source, or you can just quote once from one source. The idea here, though, is that you are developing an idea that you can actually use in your persuasive paper. So it has to be on the same topic. We've already talked about topic selection. If you have not yet emailed me your topic, I need you to do so as soon as you possibly can. There are a list of options on the first handout I gave you about the persuasive unit. But you need to choose your topic for the persuasive essay before you can write this paragraph, because the topic for this paragraph should be directly related to the topic of your persuasive essay. So, for example, if you decide to write your persuasive essay about recognizing systemic racism in law enforcement, then your exemplification paragraph should discuss just one component of that topic. So, for example, you might write about racist policing strategies in your exemplification paragraph. Or you could write about a racist departmental policy. You could write about incarceration practices, racist incarceration practices. But just choose one, and that will be the focus of this particular paragraph. I do provide some pretty specific instructions for how to build this paragraph. You'll begin with your claim, which is a topic sentence. Make sure that's not just an observation. An observation such as racism is everywhere. You can't, that's like nailing jello to a wall. You can't really do anything with that. It's not specific. It's unprovable. But if my topic sentence says systemic racism continues to plague law enforcement agencies in Missouri, then I could provide a couple of examples of where that practice has continued right here in Missouri. So that's one sentence. Keep that in mind. Your second sentence is an explanation of that claim. So I always call this the fifth grade sentence. Imagine that your reader is a fifth grader and that they're totally confused by your topic sentence. You just said systemic racism continues to plague law enforcement agencies in Missouri, and they don't know what you mean by that. So go on to explain what you mean. This usually occupies one sentence, possibly two sentences, but probably one sentence. After you have explained your topic sentence, you'll move on to part three. There's a lot of different names for part three. You could refer to these as major details. This is where you begin to discuss your evidence, but you discuss it in broad terms. So perhaps you're going to mention a particular problem, but you're not going to get into the details of it yet. You're just going to mention a specific problem. For example, racial profiling in St. Louis. That might be my major detail. And I need to become more specific than that. And that's when we get into the minor details. Now, usually when we get to these minor details, that's where we're talking about quoting materials or paraphrasing materials. You might have statistics to share or facts to share. Maybe there's a quote you want to share. Maybe you saw an example in an article you're reading. You could paraphrase that example. But this is your evidence, minor details. This is where your evidence comes in. This is where the research needs to be presented. And then you'll want to finish up your paragraph with something called a wrap-up sentence. It always answers this question, so what? You never want your paragraph just fizzle out. You need to connect the claim of your paragraph to the larger argument. So here's the trick with the exemplification assignment. You need to anticipate a little bit what you're going to be writing about in the persuasive essay. So if I'm going to argue in a persuasive essay that we need some training specific to racial sensitivity, then I need to make a statement about how this racial profiling in St. Louis could be prevented, could be stopped with some additional training. But you need to imagine what it is you're going to be writing about in your larger essay. If you change your mind, it's no big deal. You can always swap this sentence out later. The requirements for this essay are pretty standard. Academic English. Don't use first-person pronouns like I, me, mine. Don't use second-person pronouns such as the word you. Go ahead and follow those format instructions that have been given to you. This entire assignment, this exemplification paragraph, is only going to be 6 sentences, maybe 12 if you get carried away. And 1 resource from research is required. You can do 2, but you only have to have 1. So that makes this a 50-point assignment. Okay, in the next video, I will talk about the persuasive essay. You might want to watch that video before you write the exemplification, but if you feel like you've grasped the exemplification paragraph just fine, then I would say call it quits, go ahead and work on that paragraph, and watch the persuasive video afterward.